Hello everyone and welcome to episode 6 of this Chess Endgame Tactics series where we combined tactics and endgames. That way you can study them both. They're both very important areas of chess. And you also must be aware in some endgames that look boring, there may be hidden resources. And in this one, there is a hidden checkmate. So let's take a look and see here with white to move. First of all, what would you play in this position? And it looks like, this pawn is passed over here and can just freely march down the board and promote. So how does white play in this position to avoid the loss? All right, pause the video if you need more time to think about it. If not, let's take a look. All right, turn on the analysis and the evaluation. So white is ahead here by almost +2, but there's one move that keeps him ahead. There is even, surprisingly, another move that ensures a draw. So let's look at the best move here, king to g2. So hopefully you found that, but if not, this endgame is a little trickier than it looks. So if king to g2, if the pawn just marches forward immediately with a5, well then we have king to f3 here. So if I go back a move, that is the only move that keeps the advantage for white. So king to f3, and it looks like moving the pawn now is not the best move anymore according to the computer options here. It looks like a king move is best. But if this pawn continues to try and push forward, well then we have h6. And so here, what does black do? If the pawn captures, well then this g pawn can just march forward and promote. So if the king captures this pawn, well then we have king to g4. And this puts the king in a stalemated position. And if the pawn just keeps trying to push forward, well then we have this surprising hidden checkmate resource here with king to h4, keeping this king trapped. And then if the pawn continues to move, well then we have g4, a1 promoting to queen, but it's too late because now g5 can be played, checkmating with a pawn and the king supporting this pawn. So that was an interesting little hidden checkmate in this position. So, always look for the unexpected as much as you can. You won't be able to find everything, of course, but, watch out for hidden checkmate possibilities. All right, so if we go back here to the beginning and see, what else can black do? Well, after king to g2, which is the best move, then it looks like, let's see, we looked at a5 move immediately. So it looks like king to g2. Well, now other moves that the computer recommends here would be, let's see, king takes f5. But then once again, after king to f3, what does the king do now? If we have king to g5, well then g4 can be played. And now if this pawn starts moving, king to e4 here. And if this pawn is captured, well then we have h6, pawn captures, and then this g pawn, once again, as I mentioned earlier, it can just press forward and promote here. So let's take a look at another option. So this endgame, there's just a lot more going on in this endgame than first meets the eye. You know, it's like a lot of hidden options available here. All right, so after king to g2, another option is king to f6, but then, you know, once again, king to f3, and now if the pawn starts pushing forward, after king to e4, we see that the white king is in the square of the pawn here. So if you're not familiar with that, anytime a pawn is pushing forward and you draw a line from the pawn diagonally to the edge of the board down here to e1, and you have four corners from a5 to e1 to e5 to a1 here, so it makes a square. And if your king is in that square, it will be able to stop this pawn from promoting, as we'll see. So a4, king to d4, a3, and now the king goes down after this pawn and stops it. So now king takes on f5, but we have g4 check. So the king cannot capture this pawn, or once again this h pawn will march forward and either promote, or if it is captured by the g pawn, then white's g pawn will promote. So king to g5. Now the white king just moves back up to assist his pawns. And what can black do? Move back and forth, then maybe try and head into the corner and look for some type of stalemate possibilities. But he's pretty much doomed. King to h8, then the white king moves in to assist. And then this is just one possibility here. Now he's forced to capture because the king just trapped itself in the corner. And then g7, the king moves, and then mate with two pawns here. So another interesting little mate with these pawns. And then if we go all the way back to the beginning, one other thing is that if you didn't find king to g2, well then even g4 would secure a draw. And so, you know, even that is hard to see because a5 looks like it would be winning. But king to g2, a4, king moves up to g3, and if the pawn continues, we have h6. And now what? If a2 is played, well then the pawn will just promote. And now we have two pawns here, or excuse me, two queens. And, you know, they will just chase each other around. And it will just end up being a draw. Even with this extra pawn here, black can either chase the white king around or try and go after the pawn. And then, you know, this is one possibility of exchanging off here into, you know, a draw at the end. So, very interesting position, even though if we go back to the beginning, it looked kind of boring, except this passed pawn here looked like it was winning. And then I'll go through that little checkmate just to show that it was not. So, you know, if the pawn just keeps moving along, well then we have this checkmate here with these pawns. So very interesting. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this little chess endgame tactics episode number 6, which featured this hidden checkmate. And always watch out for checkmating tactics in the endgame. That way you're not surprised, or your opponent could spring one on you and all of a sudden you're losing because you didn't you know, keep an eye out for those. All right, everybody. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions, and have a great day. Thank you, everyone.